Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by Prismo Go 2.0. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is my co-host, Federico Vitici. Hi, Federico.
Hey, John. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We've got a new type of show that we want to introduce today, and I know you've been thinking about this for a little while, so why don't you explain to the listeners what we're going to be doing?
I guess this is a mini series or regular series on the show. And it's something that we were talking about, if you think about it, when we announced App Stories almost a year ago at this point.
Right.
And it's the idea of discussing app culture. What kind of trends are we seeing on the App Store? What kind of changes are we witnessing in terms of how people use apps and what kind of apps people use? What kind of categories of apps are making an impact on our culture, on our society at large? What are the ideas that we think are going to be major themes going forward? That's my idea of looking at the App Store as sort of a reflection of our culture in a way. And I believe that, we're in terms of looking at the App Store and looking at apps and games as a mirror of us as people is an idea that we agree with Apple on this because they also do stories, they do interviews, they talk about they do regular collections of apps for events that happen in the real world. And I think it's important to talk about not just, we're coming out 2 episodes that we did about RSS.
Right.
And this is definitely on the other end of the spectrum of the kind of content that we talk about on App Stories. So I thought, why don't we bounce back from talking about RSS and feeds and rules and automation by talking about app culture? And why don't we start with a discussion about 2 trends that I think are not only well established at this point, but one of them I think is picking up, especially since over the past year. And those would be the idea of wellness in the sense of meditation and mindfulness, and also health-related type of quantified self type of apps. These are 2 related topics because the idea is, you have a healthy mind and a healthy body, essentially.
Right.
And I think there's a correlation between the 2. Some apps try to do both, and there are, of course, dedicated apps that we're going to talk about. But this is the basic idea. We want to take a look at one or multiple themes that are becoming popular on the App Store and somehow are a reflection of how we as smartphone users, not even just iPhone users, but as people who use portable computers, live our lives on a daily basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think that we can kind of put it in a context too, because since we cover apps day in and day out, we've kind of seen where these trends have come from and can speculate a little bit about where we think they're going to go next, which is kind of interesting to do. And I think this is a really interesting category to start with because so much of it is also tied to hardware, wearables, sensors, the phone. And, I think that's one reason this is a hot area right now is that we're at a point now where, for example, the Apple Watch is much more capable than it started out.
Yeah, and it's been, as someone who's been trying to sort of improve myself in terms of mindfulness and workouts and being more active, I'm trying many of these apps myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been fun, and I wanted to talk about it. So let's just get into the topic. The idea of mindfulness and meditation. I think we in a way we can maybe trace back this trend, if you will, to early apps that for years have been trying to allow you to be more mindful, either by having a journal, like a diary, or doing yoga, for instance. I remember seeing the first yoga apps on the App Store many, many years ago, and also the basic meditation apps that played like some kind of relaxing audio. And this was way before the iPhone 10 or AirPods. This was several years ago. But I think especially journaling and having a diary, having a journal and writing down your thoughts has always been one of the, in a way, it's a precursor to these kind of apps.
Right. And I think another one that comes to mind for me that I just saw get updated recently that I've been meaning to take another closer look at is an app called Mood Notes. Do you know that app?
What's the name?
Mood notes.
Yes.
It's for just tracking, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry? Whatever it is. And it does a really nice job of making it easy to input the information. It's kind of a cross between, I don't know, a health and fitness type tracking app and a journaling app, because you can also add notes and do things like that and expand a little bit on whatever button is you press to show whether you're happy or whatever your mood happens to be for that day.
That's a good one, because I'm seeing mood tracking as a feature in some other apps. So the idea of having like a dedicated app just for writing down how you're feeling, what your mood is like, that's an interesting idea. And I think when we talk about meditation apps, Apple is doing some kind of product in this sense on the Apple Watch with the Breathe app on. Is that even an app? I guess it's a feature on the watch.
Yeah, it's not always easy to tell, right, on the watch.
It's
what's an app
yeah.
and what's a feature. Yeah, I guess there's no separate icon for it. So
And that's a really basic way to, because the underlying idea of all these apps that we're going to discuss is you set some time aside just for yourself. And Apple is making this product on this, I don't even know, this feature on the watch, that the basic idea is that just like the stand reminders, once every hour or every couple of hours, you get a reminder that says, take some time to breathe. And you go through this exercise, and the Apple Watch has this animation that tries to guide you towards breathing in and out. There's no audio. There's no guided session. There's no human voice telling you what to do. It's a very basic feature that writes data into the mindful minutes feature of watchOS and HealthKit. And that's interesting, but of course it's really, this is really the most basic implementation of an app for mindfulness and meditation that you could find. I'm interested in, because I've thought about this, there are hundreds of meditation apps on the App Store, and they have been made possible, I would say, by the simplicity of streaming audio these days, and even downloading audio sessions or even video sessions, because streaming, is so easy these days. Unlike
Right.
a couple of years ago with even 3G, now it's so much easier with fast Wi-Fi and 4G. But I wonder, why doesn't Apple make their own full-on meditation app with guided sessions and somebody telling you, giving you instructions? And I thought about this, and the reason I gave myself, because Apple is not doing this, is maybe they don't want to be seen as a company that provides their users with some kind of pseudoscience product,
right,
that you pay for,
right,
indirectly by buying an iPhone.
Yeah, and I think too that the thing about meditation apps and that sort of thing is that they're a bit of a cross between an app and content, right? And does Apple want to get into the whatever would you call it, self-help type meditation course content market, or would they rather just create an app that lets people record information like they've done with Breathe?
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
It's interesting, though. I mean, I agree with you. And I think streaming, one of the things that I think is an overarching theme here, especially in this category, is the fact that we now have an Apple Watch that's more capable. But as we know all too well from the podcast market, it's not so easy to get the streaming music or the streaming data that's not Apple Music onto your watch, which I think that the meditation thing, I can imagine someone wanting to just put aside their phone so they're not seeing their Facebook updates or their Snapchat messages or whatever, and just sit with a pair of headphones on and their watch and get those courses streamed directly into their ears without having their phone around. And that, I think that would be a nice thing to see.
That's a great point, actually. I could see, like, if if you're commuting, for example, and you're on a bus or on a train, and you have like a couple of hours for yourself, it would be great to just put your phone away and stream audio from the app onto the watch and therefore to the AirPods. That would be fantastic, actually. But of course, the technological limitation here is the audio features of watchOS are so limited for this kind of stuff.
Right.
I wanted to say real quickly, because I forgot, why are we talking about meditation and mindfulness? More broadly, I guess, why is this a trend? And I think, based on my experience that the changes that we've seen in our modern society, especially over the past year, and this goes way beyond just the United States. I think everywhere we're seeing this sort of shift to everybody's just not sure what's going on with the world, what's going on in terms of politics. And there's a lot of anxiety when it comes to checking the news. I can tell you this is true for the United States, it's true for Italy, it's true for the UK, it's
Right.
true for Germany. And I think people are craving this kind of, and also combined with the fact that there's this movement of, or you open your phone and you open your Facebook feed, there's a bunch of fake news, you don't know what's real anymore. There's a lot more stress, and people are craving this kind of apps that can help them cope with that kind of anxiety and stress, which has always been a problem. I mean, of course, there's anxiety and stress take many forms and shapes, and it's nothing new. But I think it's especially been true over the past year because many of us are more stressed and anxious than ever because of what's going on.
Right. Well, it's the downside of always being connected and always having a computer in your pocket is that
Yes.
that you never can quite get away from whatever the thing is that might stress you out. And it's not just stress, but it's also just distraction, right? I mean, I think we have to take more of a proactive stance in figuring out ways to disconnect and just take it easy once in a while without constantly checking Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is. And that's I think what's in part driving these apps too.
So we talked about Apple doing Breathe and maybe not doing guided meditations. What are the apps that we're actually using, the third-party apps by the third-party developers? I want to give you a couple, John,
Okay.
of these apps. The first one, these are really different apps. The first one is Brain FM, and I mentioned this app before. It uses some kind of AI to generate this binaural audio that is organized in different categories, different kinds. There's audio. I don't want to call it music because it's not really music. It's sounds and music-like audio sessions,
Right.
generated by a computer. And these are meant to, so you listen to these sessions, they can go for 30 minutes or a couple of hours. You can download them offline if you're a premium member. And the idea is that this audio can help you relax or focus or fall asleep. It's that kind of app that you just put on your headphones and listen. And in theory, this audio can put you in a better mood or help you relax and unwind. And
right.
Based on my personal experience, this stuff really works for me in terms of the focus category. Like if I need to write something, like for instance, last year, WWDC, I had to get my iPad Pro 10.5 inch review done in like 5 days. And I spent like 3 days in my hotel room listening to Brain FM and just typing on my iPad.
Drowning out the rest of us who were just chatting and being social in the other room.
Yes.
I've been using Brain FM myself since about, I don't know, early January, I want to say. And it is good. I think it does work. I'll use it sometimes when I really have a lot to get done. I use the focus category probably the most, but I've tried the relaxation one a couple of times too, just kind of unwind at the end of the day. And I do think it does work. It really does make a difference to the point where you lose track of what else is going on around you sometimes.
So Brain FM, it's I wouldn't say it's a meditation app. I mean, you can use it as a meditation app if you just want to put on the relaxing music and then do the meditation yourself.
Yeah, I think they have a meditation category even, don't they? But I mean, it's not like it's a guided course or anything like that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately too, it's iPhone only. So it's, on the iPad, it's not so great.
Yeah. And on the iPhone, it doesn't even have iPhone 10 support yet.
Right.
I think it's coming, but the app is not great on the iPhone 10. What's interesting to me is that I was looking on the App Store like a couple of months ago because I wanted to try this guided meditation thing. And there's really a lot of options these days. And the most popular one, which is the one that I ultimately that I went for and I signed up for an annual plan, is Headspace. You've probably heard of Headspace. It's
yes,
the app
I have.
with the British guy talking really in quiet and soft tones.
Yes.
Mike, Hurley, he does a absolutely great impression
He does.
of the Headspace guy. So the idea here is that you listen to this person, and it's nothing spiritual or anything. The idea is that you do breathing exercises. So not really unlike what Apple is doing, but the person also, the breathing exercise is a way to make you concentrate on your mind, on your thoughts. And the idea would be that you exercise your mind to let go of some preoccupations and think about specific aspects of your life. I know that it sounds extremely generic and like, of course I can think, I can decide what to think, but
Sure.
to do it as an exercise, especially if you have a busy day, it's tricky to set even 10 minutes aside. To do it consciously and to do it intentionally, it can be tricky. I've missed a few days, and it's fine. It's not important to do it every day, but to do it constantly, I think it helps. It's helping me because after those 10 minutes, I feel more relaxed and I feel in a better mood. And Headspace really insists on this idea of being aware of awareness, in the sense of often during the day we do things almost automatically.
Right.
Like we do almost everything, in an automatic way. And the idea here is to be more aware of what you do, even just standing or just grabbing a glass of water in the kitchen. Sometimes you do those things automatically. And the idea is to be aware of what you do so that you're not constantly thinking about what you're worried about or what's stressing you out, constantly in the background, sort of like a noise that's in your brain all the time.
Right. Yeah. It's I guess it's a combination of awareness and being deliberate, right? I mean, you're actually saying, I'm going to sit down now and I'm not going to do anything except for try to tune out all the things that are distracting me during the day and all the things that would otherwise be on my mind. Yeah. And I think one of the problems that people have with this is, I mean, I know that I go grocery shopping and the first thing I do is I throw in, I put my headphones on and I listen to a podcast. And sometimes it's better just to like walk outside and think about things and come up with ideas than it is to constantly have someone saying something in your brain, which I think what you're doing with Headspace is a way to kind of, I guess, balance that out a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's especially well suited for, as I mentioned, this kind of place where we, as people everywhere, we're kind of settled on either we have these stressing thoughts constantly in our brains, or we just mindlessly open Twitter or Facebook and just start scrolling. And for me, a fun experiment here has been, and this does not relate strictly to Headspace, but maybe more in general to mindfulness. A few weeks ago, I removed Tweetbot from the dock on my iPhone. And in the same spot, I put my time tracking app of choice, Time Logger. Because for two reasons. One, I wanted to see how many times I just automatically reach for the bottom right corner of the screen to open Tweetbot.
Yes.
And also, I wanted to make it easier for me to time track everything that I do. Well, not everything. I'm not like CGP grade that I'm time tracking the time I spend with my girlfriend or socializing.
Or sleep.
I don't do that, but I wanted to make it easier that when I'm sitting down to get work done, I want to time track everything. And I realized just how many times, especially in the first week, I just grabbed my phone even without thinking, and I reach for the icon in the bottom right corner. And so, because I wanted to open Tweetbot and start scrolling. And so the idea of awareness and being deliberate, I know it makes me feel better to not open Tweetbot all the time, and also to sometimes just remove all kinds of background activity, whether it's a podcast or my own thoughts about, I need to get 20 tasks done today, and just either think, like open, for example, my note-taking app and write down a bunch of ideas for stories that I want to write, or do a Headspace session. That's been really helpful. And I think I've been feeling a lot more inspired in terms of my writing, in terms of what I actually do. by trying to be more aware of where my thinking time goes and what's going on in the background of my mind.
Thanks to Prismo Go for sponsoring App Stories this week. Prismo Go is an incredibly cool text capture app that just got a big update last week. The app uses sophisticated OCR technology to turn images of text captured with your iOS device's camera into text that can be copied and pasted into a document or shared with others through any app that's available in the share sheet. Prismo Go recognizes URLs, phone numbers, and addresses too. Just tap a URL to open it in Safari, or tap a phone number to make a call, or an address to open it in Maps. The app even recognizes QR codes. The entire UI of Prismo Go is optimized for voiceover, which makes it great for the blind and low vision communities too, because Prismo Go can read back what it captures. Prismo Go does all this with powerful OCR. In fact, there are two OCRs built into the app. One that's on device that doesn't need an internet connection, and another that works in the cloud. With version 2, both got more powerful and more versatile. On-device OCR now supports 23 languages. Use the cloud OCR for even greater accuracy, 26 languages, the ability to translate into 59 different languages, and even handwriting recognition if you're writing in English. Some of Prismo Go's features are available as in-app purchases, but with Prismo Go 2.0, the maker, Creaseed, has debuted a new subscription model that unlocks all the app's features for just 99 cents per month or $7.99 per year. Users who previously bought Prismo Go's export pack in-app purchase can get the new yearly subscription for 60% off for the first year. There's so much cool stuff packed into this app. I encourage you to check it out now. You'll wonder how you worked without Prismo Go once you try it. So please use the link in the show notes to learn more about Prismo Go. That way they'll know that you heard about the app from App Stories. Thanks again to Prismo Go for supporting the show.
So there's 3 more apps that I wanted to mention real quickly. I don't use them, but I've tried them. And one of them, Calm, won the App of the Year 2017 in December.
Oh, yeah. Right.
This was the app that Apple chose as the App of the Year for the iPhone, in the United States, at least. And the idea, it's really well designed. It's kind of like Headspace. And the idea, I guess, is that it puts more focus on the idea of these breathing exercises. The visuals and the animations and the way the interface is designed, I think it's done better than Headspace. When it comes to doing breathing exercises, it's more interactive. That's my impression. Whereas Headspace is more, you start play and you just listen.
Well, I think right there, the fact that this was the 2017 App of the Year, at least in the U.S., that is showing, I think, and demonstrative of this trend that we've been seeing and that we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. There's also Tide, which is, I would say, a better looking alternative to Brain FM. This is an app that plays sounds for sleep and focus. I didn't really like the fact that it kind of forces you to create an account. You know, it's one of those apps that it puts up a splash screen and you need to create an account. Like, I don't want to create an account for sleep music.
Yeah, that kind of thing stops me dead in my tracks so many times because it's like, well, do I really want this? You know, it just makes you start thinking about whether you really want to sign up for another account, even if there's not any money involved. And it stops me. And I think Brain FM, if I remember right, you can just listen to a certain amount of time for a certain amount of time before you have to sign up and become a premium member.
Yeah, I think so. But Tide looks really clean and well designed on iOS 11, so it's got that going for it. And the final app I wanted to mention is Bright Mind. So I think this one is a relatively new entry in this space, and it's based on this system, this theory developed by I'm gonna get this name wrong, Shinzen Yang.
Okay.
He's an American meditation teacher. I think he used to be a monk. Also, the Headspace guy used to be a monk. I think we can tell the monks are pretty relaxed people.
Yeah, they're very chill and they're into apps now.
They're very chill, very chill. You gotta be a monk to be the final to get the final level of Headspace. And the idea of Right Mind, which looks fantastic on the iPhone 10, Really beautiful design. I think Michael Flarup did the icon, which is
Oh,
one of
okay,
my
yeah.
yeah, he's a great designer.
Yeah, he is.
And the idea is that you go through this sort of structured curriculum, and you can select the goals that you want to achieve, and you can say, I want to focus on like relieving stress or taking care of my anxiety and trying to make that better. So you make like an outline for what you want to achieve, and then the audio files are customized for you. So it does a bit of like personalization just for you, which I think is really nice, and it looks just great. It looks really great.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's one that I haven't heard of. I'll have to actually take a look at that at some point. I mean, it sounds like I like the trend towards personalization. I think it's a trend that you see across a lot of categories of apps, but it makes a lot of sense, particularly in this one.
So where do we think this category of apps is going? What do you think is going to happen to this segment of the App Store?
Yeah, well, I foresee this continuing to grow quite a bit. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more of this throughout 2018. I also do think that if we can I'm hopeful that at WWC, we'll get better streaming audio APIs for the watch, because I really think that this is categories I said before that would benefit from being able to use it without having your iPhone around. Just as the removal of yet another level of distraction, where you can literally just sit down, lay down on the couch, put in your AirPods or whatever headphones you've got, and listen to one of these sessions in one of these apps. I think that would really push this genre kind of forward. But until we get the right APIs, I don't think we're going to see that aspect of it.
Yeah, I agree. The point that you made about being perfect for just the watch and AirPods or other kinds of headphones is really a good one, because in combination with this movement that we're seeing of just being mindful of how much you use your iPhone, and the whole time well spent movement and organization, I can see these apps benefiting from just being iPhone free and smartphone free in general. I also think we're going to see more customization and personalization based on what the user needs. So instead of having like this sort of template of here's all the sessions that we have for you, here's all the themes that we have for you, I think Brightmind, with the idea of a personal curriculum, that's the right path forward of personalizing these sessions, basically like just like any kind of actual session with an actual human teacher, or any kind of session that you would do at a psychologist, for example. It would be personalized for you, of course.
Right,
It's not like you go to,
you don't have to click through the menus.
no, it's not like an app store that you go through and you just, oh, I guess this is the menu here. So personalization is definitely the right thing to do. And also this, on the other end, these AI generated sounds, I think it's also something we will continue to see, instead of like having to come up with the music and with the sounds. Why don't we let artificial intelligence make the actual sounds? So
Yeah.
it's probably a way to save money, but it's also a way maybe to create superior sounds that actually work if the science is correct. I know that Brain FM does a pretty good job for me. And finally, I would say that we will continue to see Apple editorial on the App Store do stories about this on the Today page, collections, lists, interviews with the developers, maybe even with people that are using these kinds of apps. That would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I think the idea that we'll see more AI-driven apps like this makes a lot of sense. But I could also see a niche kind of carving out that is collections that, especially when it comes to courses where you're being guided through by a person, and that sort of thing, and personalization combined with picks from, here are the top 10 meditation experts walking you through this sort of program, I could see that being another category that we might see. It's almost like the other end of the spectrum. Either you have this very curated and handmade sort of curriculum that you go through, or you have these AI generated sounds that are based on pure science and your reaction to them. Maybe, listening, tracking your heart rate as you go through the process, and kind of adjusting the sounds and the music or whatever it is dynamically as you as you listen. All right, Federico. Well, I know that we said at the outset that we were going to cover fitness apps too, but I think we got a little caught up in our own headspace here and and went through the mindfulness stuff a little more, which is good because I think it really is a category that we're going to see more and more of. And so we'll save the fitness apps for another time because there is a lot to talk about there too. I think that's a rapidly developing category and one of the most crowded areas of the App Store right now.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Prismo Go. You can find Federico and me on MacStories.net every week writing and on Club Mac Stories. And on Twitter, Federico is at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. That's JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.